time.
So the work particularly that Sanders has done in the first century context of the Jewish world and world of thought that Paul operated in is useful for what? Really just for scholars? The theological conclusions he draws from it are misleading and wrong?
I think that if there is one thing that we could get out of this for evangelicals, it would be to reorient ourselves to the Pharisees. I think for a long time, evangelicals have viewed Pharisees as people who care too much about the law. They're nitpickers. They love minutia. They're harsh. They're mean, etc. And I think if you could get anything out of these guys, one thing you're going to get is a reorientation to the Pharisees. And by the way, I think you can get this if you read Jesus right. Just read the Gospels. And that is, Jesus never accuses these men of caring too much about God's law. Mm-hmm. He always tells them, your problem is you act like you care about God's law and you trash it. Mm-hmm. And so what he ends up doing is holding the law up in front of them and showing them that the law is much greater than they've ever thought it was, and that they have never, ever done it service. And you get this in story after story, not only of his antagonistic interactions with the Pharisees, but even in stories like the rich young ruler, where Jesus clearly has a compassion and a connection with this man who comes to him. And you remember the question, what must I do? And the answer is, keep the law. Interesting answer from a gospel preacher.
Interesting question for
Yes.
E.P. Sanders to consider. That a Jew was
Why
walking
was he
around, even a
asking-
good one, saying, what must I do?
That's right.
Yeah.
And then the retort, I've done that since I was a child. And then, okay, sell everything you have and give it to the poor. And the whole dynamic is played by some as, oh, you see, this proves that Jesus actually taught sort of a works righteousness view of salvation. Not the point. He holds up the first commandment before the young man. You shall have no other God before you. Sell everything. Well, first of all, his God was standing before him. But secondly, sell everything you have and give it to the poor. The young man says, I can't do that. Thus showing that he has not kept the law since he was a youth, thus proving him a liar on the spot. Very interesting interaction, not accusing him of caring too much about the law, but not appreciating the demands of the law. So, that could be a corrective to some sort of popular evangelical pillaring of the Pharisees, because we paint a picture of the Pharisee that would not look anything like us, when the fact of the matter is, we look a whole lot more like the Pharisees than we would like to admit.
I think the Pharisees are generally people like us, only just to our right. So whoever you're listening, whoever's speaking, it's just somebody like themselves, only to their right.
It's true. That's how we think of them. And we don't think of this as a dedicated evangelizing lay movement, which it was.
Right. Mm-hmm. Much more like the evangelical. They were the evangelicals of their day in some ways.